Assalamu alaikum everyone and welcome to day 26 of the Ramadan Dua Accelerator. I recorded this video. For some reason the sound cut out when I was using the microphone I typically like to use, so I'm going to be using this microphone instead, inshallah, and I hope that the sound is fine. With that being said, you guys, we're at the last few days of Ramadan, only 4 more days left, subhanAllah, or 4 or 3. But I hope you guys are taking advantage. Tonight for us is the 27th night of Ramadan, and high possibility that it might be Laylatul Qadr. If you are still feeling lazy about your worship, then make sure you please do not forsake these last few days. And this is a reminder to myself as well. The dua that I wanted to focus on today is a dua that was recited by none other than Prophet Nuh alayhi salam. And if you are not familiar with Prophet Nuh's story, I think one part of it is going to shock you, but we'll start with reading the verse. This is from Surah Al-Qamar. أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم فدعا ربه أني مغلوب فانتصر. So he cried out to his Lord, I am helpless, so help me. Why is Nuh alayhi salam calling out to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala saying, I am helpless, so help me, Ya Allah? The story goes like this. Prophet Nuh alayhi salam was sent to his people, and they were people that were very, very difficult to preach to. They would mock him, they would put their fingers in their ears to showcase that they weren't listening. They would make fun of his followers who were poor and destitute, but they were believers in Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, and say that they would never join the ranks of people like that. They undervalued people, and Nuh alayhi salam was extremely frustrated at that. And Nuh alayhi salam is a prophet, yes, but he's also a human. So he found himself very, very frustrated at the constant disrespect that was happening, and not necessarily because he was being disrespected, but because Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is being disrespected. And we even think to the story of the Prophet alayhi salatu wasalam, Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alayhi wa wasallam, who would feel very frustrated too when he would preach and people would reject, and not because it hurt his own ego, but rather because he knew what would become of people who rejected the message, and he feared for them so much so that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala tells him in the Quran, your job is not to guide them, just focus on delivering the message, focus on warning them, and that's all that your job is to do. Nuh alayhi salam was preaching for a very long time. He was preaching for years. And when I say years, I don't mean 9 years, I don't mean 90 years. We know that he was preaching for hundreds of years before he made this dua. And when he made this dua, Allah's response was that the flood of Nuh alayhi salam, the flood of Nuh's time as we know it, occurs. Now, what are some lessons that we can take from this dua? First and foremost, take note of the fact that Nuh alayhi salam, when making the dua, he's not asking for anything in specific. He doesn't say, Allah, I am helpless, so send down the flood. Allah, I'm helpless, so punish the disbelievers. Allah, I'm helpless, so do XYZ. He just proclaims his need. He just shows his desperation. He just expresses his humility in front of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. There's another prophet whose dua we also went over in the series who does something very similar. He doesn't ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala for something specific, but asks Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala by demonstrating his need, and that is Prophet Musa alayhi salam, when he says, Rabbi inni lama anzalta ilayya min khairin faqir. My Lord, I am in need of whatever good you will descend upon me. And so lesson number one is that sometimes we feel like when we make dua, we have to be super specific and exactly draw out what it is that we want. But with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, you don't have to do that. You can just express your desperation and your need. And we're always in need of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, but sometimes we recognize that need more than others, and that can draw us to dua. So if you find that maybe you don't know what to say, or maybe you want to test your tawakkul more, right? You want to show your trust in Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, and you understand that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala's answer to your dua is going to be better than anything that you could have constructed or any plan you could have built out. Make this dua or follow something similar where you just, whatever the situation is, you express your need. Now, again, sometimes we find ourselves in situations that are so difficult, straining. It feels like the world is collapsing on us, and we can't even fathom what the way out of this is. Make a similar dua. You can say, إني مغلوبا فانتصر. I am in need, I am helpless, Ya Allah. And that is a valid dua. Dua just means to call out to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. It doesn't mean that you specify a thing that you want or an event that you want to happen. Dua is just calling out to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. The other side of it is that we reflect on the fact that Nuh alayhi salam basically preached for longer than any of us will ever be alive before making this dua. And that just is a reminder to us of the importance of patience, time, and effort when it comes to anything in our life. Our deen is so particular about the importance of sabr, of patience. And that's because sometimes we're just going to be in situations where we feel the constraints of the hardship we're in. And the only thing that's going to carry us through that is Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala's mercy and our patience, being patient through that. The other side of it is that nothing just comes to you effortlessly most of the time. So sometimes we ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala for something, but we don't want to put in the effort. And yet Nuh alayhi salam put in the effort for hundreds of years before making that dua. A perfect example is one dua that most, I would say, if there was a list of top 10 du'as that people are making, that this would probably jump on the list for unmarried Muslims, which is, Ya Allah, finding someone to marry. There are people who will make dua for that, and that's good. We should make dua for that. In fact, one of the du'as we went over in this series is a dua specific to finding a good spouse and having righteous progeny. They'll make the dua, but they won't do anything or apply any effort that is going to make it a higher possibility or get them the best outcome when it comes to that. They don't work on themselves, men not asking, what do I need to do in order to be a better husband? What do I need to learn? What skills do I need to develop? Same thing for wives. How can I be a better wife to my husband? How can I be a better mother to my children if Allah blesses me with children? We have to be willing to put in the effort and take the time and do the actual intentional planning. And that way, we're also preparing ourselves to receive that blessing from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala in the best way possible, right? If you are asking Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala for marriage as an example, right? Let's say you are that's what you're asking for, but you don't do any work on it. You don't develop your communication skills. You don't understand what Islam says about the role of a husband and a wife in a marriage. You don't understand the sanctity of marriage. And then Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala grants you a good spouse or a righteous spouse. He answers your dua. And then you blow it because you didn't do the preparation and you didn't put in the effort to make sure that you were receiving it in the best way possible. And then you lose out on that blessing because you sabotaged it. We don't realize that sometimes Allah can give us what we ask for, and then we're the ones that end up destroying it. And we break our own dua. We lose the reward of our own dua. When I say reward, I don't mean the hasanat. I mean the reward is in the manifestation of what it looks like in our life. With that being said, you guys, I hope that this made sense to you guys and you enjoyed it. Please, if you are someone who has been up to this point watching the entire series or majority of the series, please like this video, comment below, and I will see you in the next one. Assalamu alaikum.